Joining me right now, political strategist and the co-founder of MustReadTexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Chad. I'm doing great. Good morning.
Good morning. And right before we even went on the air, we had a little bit of breaking news as far as the Supreme Court goes and in the state of Texas, correct?
Yeah, there was a challenge to, I think, the state's position that congressional districts should be apportioned based on the vote eligible population, essentially the voting age population, rather than the overall population. And so that would have hurt congressional districts where you have a lot of people that are under the age of 18, or perhaps a lot of illegal aliens or something like that. And I didn't see the vote breakdown, but it sounds like the Supreme Court rejected the state's position and decided to continue to consider congressional district apportionment based on overall population, not on those who are of voting age.
Yeah, it looks like a unanimous vote there from the Supreme Court, and I don't know.
Okay.
It seems pretty common sense to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I would probably agree. I mean, the challenge with that obviously is that the census only occurs every 10 years, and obviously the number of voting age citizens would change probably every year. So I don't know what the argument would be, except for perhaps something like that.
Yeah. Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, let's take a look at some of the national stuff right now. Just about every publication out there says it was a bad week for Donald Trump, though I don't know what that means anymore when it comes to Donald Trump, because even his bad weeks, it's not like the guy is close to losing this thing. I mean, he's still going on, and he's still, as of right now, the favorite to win the nomination. So what does it look like as far as this week for Donald Trump and Ted Cruz?
You know, it's funny. I was looking last night at the online betting markets, and for Trump, it's actually there was a bet that said chances Donald Trump will be the nominee, and the odds were even odds. It's the first time I've seen the odds be that weak for Trump. So I think that is a reflection of the very bad week Trump had. And keep in mind, it matters for a few reasons. One, it matters because it's going to help Cruz have a significant victory in Wisconsin tomorrow night. And there's not another contest for 2 weeks after Wisconsin. So there's really no way for Trump to break the death spiral he's going to be in. But it also matters because, look, Trump should be growing in strength right now. He should be unifying the party. If he truly is the front runner, he ought to have people coming to him. And he ought to be working to bring old enemies in and bring new people in and bulk up his campaign and really be a well-oiled machine at this point. And if anything, they seem to be falling apart at the seams. And his appeal is actually, I think, growing more narrow, not growing wider. So I think it was a very bad week for Trump. I think if he ends up not being the nominee, we may look back to this week and say this is where it all started, where his downfall began. And we don't have to recite all the examples. There were, everything that happened, people were paying attention to. But he obviously has a huge gender gap with women. That's a big problem. I think it's going to rear its ugly head in Wisconsin. And I think Cruz is going to get a big boost of momentum coming out of Wisconsin as well. Now, how that manifests itself in New York and in the 5 northeastern states that vote 1 week after that remains to be seen, because that's not a naturally strong place for Cruz.
Right.
But I think we are headed towards an open convention where Trump does not get the majority and does not win on the first ballot. And in that circumstance, I think there's a very high probability that Cruz wins, particularly if he can win it on the second or third or fourth ballot fairly early on.
What's the likelihood that if it goes to a contested convention, which I think as of right now, Trump has to win over 70% of the delegates needed, Cruz has to win over 90% of the delegates needed. So I agree with you. This thing's going to a contested convention. If it goes to one, and let's say, what's the likelihood that Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and John Kasich, none of them are the nominee? What's the likelihood of that happening?
I think it's very, very low. I mean, very low. I think these people in Washington that are talking about this, talking about Paul Ryan or something, I think that they are really kind of nuts. I mean, if we got to like a 9th ballot or something, and it's like Saturday and our convention won't end, and we're sort of, stuck, I could see something like that happening. That's not going to happen. Momentum matters in these floor fights. Delegates want to be with the winner. As Haley Barbour says, good gets better and bad gets worse. And I think in this case, Cruz will be the momentum candidate on the floor of the convention. That's really what I just think will happen. I think Trump will lose support as delegates become unbound. And partly that's because delegates are generally more likely to be either conservative activists or longtime party figures, both of whom are going to be likely to be against Trump. But it's also true because Cruz is clearly doing a much better job in electing the actual delegates in the states. He started doing that in Louisiana. He's moved now to South Carolina. He's done that in a number of other states. North Dakota over the weekend, he basically got his entire slate elected over the slate the state party wanted. So he's having success with delegates in these states, and Trump's delegate operation is basically non-existent. So I just think Cruz is going to be the momentum candidate at that point. But part of this, depends how far does Cruz have to go? Is he at 900 or is he at 600? The closer he is to Trump, the easier he makes it for himself for him to win on an earlier ballot, to try to unify the party earlier on so we can have a more normal convention after that happens.
Last week there were some news stories about Marco Rubio really working hard behind the scenes to keep those delegates. Is that a play for if we go to a contested convention, he gets up and maybe makes a speech or says something to the effect of, hey, all my delegates, go to Cruz? Because I don't see him saying that to, telling his delegates go to Donald Trump.
Yeah, keep in mind, this happened based on Alaska. Alaska had, I think, 5 delegates that were going to go to Rubio. And it kind of depended on whether he, quote, suspended his campaign or ended his campaign. He decided to hold on to them, and the reason he did that is if he didn't, 3 would have gone to Trump and 2 would have gone to Cruz. So Trump would have been 3 closer to 1237. I don't think this is a power play by him or trying to remain relevant or anything like that. I think it's all about making sure Trump doesn't hit 1237 on the first ballot. Those delegates will become unbound early on, just like most of the delegates do. 70 to 75% of the delegates become unbound on the second ballot. Florida becomes unbound on the fourth ballot. So part of this is why it matters how close Cruz is to 1237 going in, because as more and more delegates become unbound later in the process, the further away you are from that number, the more of those unbound delegates you're going to need to win. So I think this is all about everyone being united. I mean, on the other hand, Rubio took his name off the ballot in California, right? And he did that to help Cruz. So I think they're trying to be strategic in every way they can.
We've spent obviously a lot of time, the media has, paying attention to the Republicans. The Democrats are, that division between Hillary and Sanders is a growing division. How is that likely to play out as far as just voters go and Hillary being able to retain those Bernie supporters?
I think it's a massively undercovered story, because there's so much division on the Republican side. They're basically ignoring the division on the Democratic side. There is very little enthusiasm for Hillary, and you're starting to see Bernie really, I think, demonstrate that. I read a statistic last night that stunned me. Bernie Sanders has won 14 states, and Hillary has won 18 states. How on earth she has some kind of, quote, insurmountable lead is bizarre to me, the fact she's only won 4 states more than he has. And he's on a little bit of a run right now. He's won a number of states. Looks like I think he may win Wisconsin tomorrow night. The big prize is going to be New York. If he can beat Hillary in her home state, that's going to change the race. I still think the math is very, very bad for him, the delegate math. And unless he can flip, 2/3 of the superdelegates that have pledged to her, he probably can't get there. Now, if she is indicted, which I think we'll know the answer to that in the next 6 weeks, that would obviously change things considerably, and I think he's probably the only person that could be the nominee based on the support he's gotten. He still raised $40 million last month. So he's not going anywhere. He's in this thing till June 7th, and he's going to be in a position to demand things from Hillary if she's the nominee in order to get his support. I don't think he can demand being vice president, but, the cabinet might be something that interests him. A primetime speech at the convention might be something that interests him. Specific promises on policy might interest him. Unifying the Democratic Party between Hillary and Bernie is going to be a bigger challenge than people realize.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak, a GOP political strategist, also co-founder of MustReadTexas.com. Matt, what can people find on MustReadTexas.com this week?
Yeah, just beginning to update it. The one thing I'll point out is a column from Peggy Fekak in the San Antonio Express News about the potential for Rick Perry to run a third-party bid for president, and sort of the irony of that possibility. Of course, he didn't vote in the Republican primary in Texas. He says he mailed his ballot in, but it was never received. And because of that, he can run a third-party bid. There's no sore loser law in Texas. If you don't vote in the primary, you can run as a third-party candidate. So it's an interesting column. You can find that, all the news, all the opinion from around the state at mustreadtexas.com.
All right, Matt, as always, appreciate your time, and have a good week.
Take care, you too.
That's Matt Mackowiak. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Mackowiak.